Jen.
Hi, Em.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? We had a lovely lunch break.
We love lunch break. Happy to be at Westchester Studios every time.
Every time.
If you could pick any two people in the world to be your parents, who would you pick? And they don't need to be a couple in real life, famous or not.
Jane Fonda as my mother. And Pierce Brosnan. Because I want a British daddy. Who doesn't?
I'm going to say my own parents. Okay, I'm actually going to say Steve Martin.
I almost do.
I'm going to say, no, I love my parents very much. But for the part of the game, who I'm going to pick, I'm picking Steve Martin and Meryl Streep. Even because they're a real life couple now.
They are, right?
I'm also really loving Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson.
Oh, my God.
Yes. I will take either of those late in life loves.
Love them.
Yep.
And I'm really upset I didn't think about that one sooner. But they don't have to be a couple in real life,
But it was fun to do that.
I just love them. I'm so happy for them.
I originally said Danny DeVito and Rita Perlman, but I am very sad that they are no longer together.
Right.
Wait, did they get back together? I'm going to Google that afterwards. Okay.
Fact-checked. We don't have Nikki here to look it up for us.
Damn it, you're right. Great episode, breaking intergenerational patterns, breaking being just like your parents.
Well, first let me ask, do you have anything that people will say like, oh, you're just like?
Yeah, I look identical to my mother.
You do.
Every person who's like, you look just like Ellen. I'm like, I fucking know.
Yeah, there's those Ellen genes are strong.
And Millie looks just like us too. We don't know about Birdie yet.
Right now, Birdie looks exactly like Erin.
She looks like a complete clone of my husband. We'll see though.
Yeah.
I think a lot. I think me and my mom are both very direct.
Oh.
And like sometimes
it's a little
could use a little more warmth. Could use a little bit more tact in our honesty sometimes. Both of us have this trait, you know?
Right.
She's like, she was like, I grew up in Manhattan. I got no fucking time for this.
Cool.
And I'm like, well, somehow I got that trait as well, but did not grow up in Manhattan. But a lot of people say that. What about your parents? I'm just like my dad personality-wise. Like my dad is very extroverted, is like a performer.
Yeah. I think I'm probably stubborn like my dad.
And addicted to work like your father.
And addicted to work like my dad. Mm-hmm. And so is my brother. We somehow all got that gene.
Yeah.
Just being just like filling a deep void with work. I was saying, before we started recording, I was feeling a little depressed this weekend. My brother asked recently, he was like, how are you feeling? I was like, great. I shoved it deep, deep down inside of me. And he was like, great job. Shoved it
what
deep
a
down.
Healthy family contract.
Heirloom. Were you about to say heirloom? We passed this beautiful family heirloom down of shoving our feelings down.
That is funny.
I know. And it is. It is the Chaikin way.
The Chaikin way. What about your mom?
Probably her ADHD. Definitely got that.
Also a beautiful blessing.
A beautiful family heirloom also passed down to me.
We want to know, what is your family mental health heirloom?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
But for a lot of us, we want to try be a little better than our parents, and that's not a bad thing. I think that one of my favorite sayings I've read before that I don't know who said this. I wonder if anyone knows, is that your parents' ceiling is your floor. Right? So, like, it's important to know that, like, your parents did work from their parents, and we keep wanting to break this, and so it's important for us. So we want to be different from our parents. And there's a lot of ways, a lot of things. And the important thing to think about is, what do I want to take from my parents, and what do I want to leave behind? Because they also give us wonderful traits as well. Right? Like, my dad can talk to anyone. He's such a salesperson. He gave that to me. My mom was really good at seeing a situation. She gave that to me. These are all beautiful things. And then also, me and my dad both got a little bit of self-indulgent situation, and me and my mom have too much honesty, right? So what's the stuff you want to leave and what's the stuff you want to take away?
And a piece of this too is really understanding what are those things, because a lot of the time they are so subconscious to us. They just, whether we inherit them through nature or nurture, they're deep within us, and sometimes we don't even realize it. And you know what I think is really funny is that so often we learn it from our partners. Like our partners will come into your family dynamic and be like, so weird that you guys do this.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, and then you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. You don't even realize that it's bad.
You don't even realize that you're doing it. And it really takes sometimes being in a relationship, whether it's a friendship, romantic relationship, for someone to be like, oh, you realize you do this?
Yeah.
You know, because when you're in the family system, no one's there to call you out on it because everyone's doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's so true.
You know, so if someone's calling you out on something, might be time to look at it. Or if it's affecting your relationship, could be time to look at it. But yeah, so really just understanding what are the things that I want to take from my family and what are the things that I want to leave behind. And I think too, so often that comes when you have children.
Yeah.
Because
I will say this. Yeah. I've never had more empathy from my mother than when I became a mom. Because I was like, I get it. There's my favorite scene ever is, you ever see Bad Moms Christmas?
I never saw the Christmas one.
Okay, right. So there's a great scene with Wanda Sykes where Kristen Bell goes to therapy with her mom.
Yeah.
And she's like saying to Wanda Sykes as the family therapist, and she's like, and Wanda Sykes is like, so you want to know why your mom is crazy? And Kristen Bell's like, yeah. And she's like, because of you, motherfucker, because she didn't sleep, because you called her crying all the time. You have a husband that's a dickhead that you complain to her about. Like, we make our mothers fucking nuts.
Right. We're the crazy makers.
We are. All of us are, right? Because that is also what parenthood is. That's what family is. Yeah. And that's when you choose to be a parent, that is what you sign up for.
Yeah.
When you choose to bring children into this world without their consent, because none of us are born with consent, you are choosing to let them get to you. So you know what I mean? To nurture them, to love them, to feed them, unconditionally to show up for them. Like, you sign up for that shit.
Yeah, you do.
But it doesn't mean it's without consequences to you. You lose your mind a little bit. You lose your sleep. You know what I mean? Yeah. Said it before, my tits are to my ankle. You know, like things you're given.
Parts sacrificing.
You are. That is parenthood. And frankly, if you're choosing to be a parenthood, fucking show up and own that shit, right? We owe that to our children when we bring them into this world. But let's talk a little bit about making those relationships work. And family behavior. So the first question somebody wrote in is how to accept that my parents will never acknowledge the ways they hurt me or grow and be better. My parents are never going to change, they're saying, right? They can't accept the ways they've hurt me. They're not going to admit it.
I think one thing that we want to put out there is that you don't need your parents' acknowledgement or their apology in order for you to heal. So often people believe that the only way I can heal or grow is if my parent can acknowledge what they did in my childhood or how they affected me. Would it be helpful? Absolutely. Are you going to get it? Probably not. So your hurt wasn't something that you created. It's something your parent created. But the hurt is your responsibility now to take care of as an adult. So my point of saying that is to take responsibility for your healing because you have the ability to reparent yourself, to be able to give yourself the things that you didn't get as a child. Because my guess is that if your parent couldn't give it to you as a child, they probably can't give it to you now.
Yeah.
So take responsibility for your healing and your closure. And I think another big piece of this is a lot of this is grief work.
Yeah.
That we grieve the relationship that we wanted with a parent that we never received. And that grief comes up over and over again throughout our lives. I think especially at times of transition, whether we have kids or, you know, if we go through a breakup and we realize, okay, I can't rely on a parent like my friends are relying on their parents.
Yeah.
I can't call my parent like my friends call their parents. So the grief pops up over and over and over again throughout our lives. And so just to be aware of that the grief doesn't just go away because you've processed it, you've worked through it, to acknowledge that the grief is going to continue to come up. How do you take care of yourself when the grief comes up? What can you do for yourself when that happens?
So, how to deal from their trauma without going no contact? That's not always the answer. Yes, we agree. The internet loves to tell you to cut off your family.
Loves.
There is another way to do this. As family therapists, we are not big fans of cutoff. Of course, there is instances, right? An extreme, instance of abuse, of extreme coercion, of psychological, intimidation. Any of these things would be an appropriate thing to cut them off, right? Like, I get that, but for the most part, what we need are boundaries, not cut off. People actually find that it's easier to cut off their family than to set a boundary with them, because a cutoff is, see ya, I'm done. I'm not going to talk about this anymore. A boundary is ongoing, hard conversations. And I'm going to be honest, they suck. Right? But I want you to think about this in terms of like an emotional light switch dimmer.
Yeah.
Right? So
Love a
like
dimmer.
we're not going to turn off the light, but we're going to turn down the intensity. That's what the boundaries do.
That's good. Another thing that I think is important to say is that, just as I said earlier, in times of transition, you might have to reassess what your boundaries are with family members.
Yeah.
Because when you enter into a relationship, when you start having children, your family might have an idea about what that looks like in terms of their relationship with you. So maybe it's that you didn't have to set as strong of a boundary before you had kids, and now that you have kids, you have to set a stronger boundary. So just the idea that we can reassess and reset our boundaries at different times in our lives, I think is also really important, that you don't just set it once and you're good. You set it once and you might have to keep setting it over and over again and decide what works for you in your life.
Yeah. I think people will often be like, well, I set a boundary and then they ignored it. All right, well, did you reset it?
Right.
Did you say it in a different way? Did you try again? Like, I know that sucks. People are always like, well, why do I have to be the bigger person? Who cares? It's your flight in life. I don't know. Is that the right saying?
I have no idea. I was hoping you didn't ask me.
I don't think that's right.
Flight?
That doesn't sound right.
Flight? Can't ask Nikki again. God damn it.
Okay. How do you manage breaking cycles when family interprets it as a direct attack on them?
So here's what I say. Their discomfort does not mean you're doing something wrong. It actually often means you're doing something right.
Well, and also, of course, they feel like that, right? You're changing the entire homeostasis and equilibrium of the relationship, right? All of a sudden, I'm changing and doing everything different. It's going to feel like a personal attack, right? And that is part of it.
Right. And I think people see the personal attack and they're like, they see them reacting to the idea that this is a personal attack, and they're like, oh, well, I got to back off. Oh, I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Let them misinterpret you. Let them feel attacked. They can still feel like it's a personal attack, and you can still set a boundary. And you can approach it with love, right? You can say, this is not about you. I understand it feels personal. It's not personal, and I love you. And in order to maintain our relationship from a healthy place, I need to set this boundary because I need to be able to take care of myself, and I need to be able to take care of my family so that I can re-engage in this relationship in a way that's really healthy. That's not because of guilt. That's not because of coercion.
If you are someone who is more of an intense personality or an over-explainer or guilty, you might feel like you really need to counteract or explain their misinterpretation. You don't. You don't need to keep reinterpreting and keep explaining yourself and keep having conversations around this. A boundary does better in a short, succinct way.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to keep talking.
You have to keep talking about it, right? Like it really doesn't, like, sometimes protecting the relationship means letting them misinterpret you and still holding strong to the boundary.
I love this question. I get why my mom was so short with us now that I'm a mom and I need to cycle break. How?
Listen, I said it before. My mom told me a great thing, which is parenting is a journey of humility. There is nothing that can humble you like becoming a parent.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
You know, you're just like, wow, man, why was I such a dick to my parents? I get why they're stressed out. They're working hard. They're paying for all this shit for me, and I'm getting mad about dumb. You know what I mean? Like,
let me say, even not being a parent, watching my friends become parents, watching you become a parent, makes me understand my mom more.
There's a really good. Did you ever watch Working Moms? That is a show. Oh, it's really funny.
Yeah. I've heard about it.
It's a really funny show. But there's a great scene where there's a mom walking down the street and her kid is having a tantrum and he's like, oh, I hate you. And this other mom turns to the kid and was like, your mother is a wonderful woman. You apologize, right? Like, you know, like these things we say to our parents. Like, I mean, like I'm at a point right now, like my current 6-year-old's like telling me she hates me a lot. That's like her thing that she does. And I'm like, you know, I love you, motherfucker. Like, you will never get away. I love to say, I said, that's great, babe. I'm going to love you until you die. Like, there is nothing. I'm going to love you so hard. You have no other choice. But, like, yeah, parenting is, like, way more humbling. Because in your head, you're like, oh, my God, I'm killing it. Like, I'm so good. I'm such a good mom. And then something happens and it all falls apart very suddenly.
Right. And you're like,
because, like, wait. Just because you get in a groove with something and then it falls and then you have to get in a groove again. It, like, keeps going like that. Listen, you can suddenly understand your mom's stress and not repeat it.
Yes.
You can have empathy for your parents and be like, and still, I don't need to do it their way.
I also think something that's really important is, like, modeling repair.
Yeah.
You know, if you find yourself getting short with your child and it's something that, you know, you want to repair, to be able to go to your kid and be like, hey, I recognize I got short with you. You know, mommy's going to try to. I don't fucking know. I'm not a parent.
That's exactly what I would say. Hey, I'm really sorry that we had an issue the other day where I yelled at my daughter after she ran out into a parking lot. And I said, listen, I'm really sorry I yelled like that, but you could have got hit by a car. And I was really scared. And so nice when someone's scared, they yelled, and I needed to use a really big voice for you to hear me because it was a dangerous situation.
So nice.
And in my house, we're having a lot of conversations right now about the difference between something being scary and something being dangerous. Right? A nightmare is scary, but it's not dangerous. Right? Running in a parking lot is dangerous. You know, we're just working on defining these little words.
That's nice. Also probably going to be so helpful for her anxiety in the future.
We'll see.
For her.
I have a blind eye when I'm doing things my mom does that drive me crazy. How to start spotting these on my own. I know when my mom does it, but I can't identify it in me. Ooh, sometimes the bravest thing we can do is ask someone to hold a mirror to us.
I love that. So being able to ask our partner or ask our friend to be able to say, hey, if you recognize certain patterns in me, can you gently bring it up?
Yeah.
Or our therapist. That's our therapist's job. So
yeah.
Hopefully we won't have to ask them.
Yeah. But it is, I mean, it's an incredibly scary thing to do.
Yeah.
Because one, that means they're seeing that in you. And we feel like embarrassment and shame, maybe.
Yeah.
And still, once again, we talk about this, have the ego death, man. Let yourself be humbled and keep it moving. Ooh, that one hurts to see. I told Jen something the other day and she goes, that was very Ellen of you, what I did.
Oh, what was it?
I was really having a hard day and Millie was really giving me a hard time. And I was like, I just told her we had to be silent on the way home. And you're like, oh, that was very Ellen of you. And
sorry.
It was.
You didn't give me permission for that.
No, but it really was. And I stand by it. Like, I still think it was the right thing to do. Because as we know, for me, if I keep talking,
yes,
it's often not the best thing for anyone involved. I got to shut this mouth.
You made the right decision
yes,
at the time.
100%. But it was very much an Ellen move. And so when somebody holds a mirror up to us, it can be really scary and it can be incredibly important for someone to point it out.
Did that give you like an understanding of why Ellen does that?
Yes. I was like, oh, this is why my mom had to use silence growing up. So one, because also calm down. Like the other thing that we sometimes do as parents, especially in this day and age where we're so obsessed with like gentle parenting and being open and talking, I think we over-explain to children sometimes. Yeah. And then it turns into a lecture. And also like kids don't listen for that long.
Right. Like what's their attention span?
Exactly, right? So like sometimes there is a greater acknowledgement sitting in silence.
Yeah. So just being able to like give people permission to be like, hey, point that out when I do that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Do it. But you know, your partner can't do it in a dickhead way.
Exactly. Gently point that out.
Don't be like, oh, you're acting like your fucking mom. Just say, hey, babe.
Because you know that happens.
Right? We repeat what's familiar. That's just it. That's why we're doing it. And in moments of activation, it's very difficult to sit and to calm and regulate. We're going to go into familiar old patterns. That doesn't make you horrible. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're a shitty mom. It means that you're a human with a nervous system that's reacting.
How about this one? How to actually break cycles when you are around said parent so much. Not falling back into old patterns, keeping boundaries, and not engaging. When you are around a parent, you are stepping back into the system that created those behaviors in you, and so when we talk about a regression, when you go home for like Thanksgiving or something,
and you leave like, am I 12 years old?
Yeah, like all of a sudden you're like, Mom, you make me something.
Yeah, you're like, don't know how to like be a functioning
Yeah, like
human.
all of a sudden you're not functioning.
Like, yeah.
Why does that happen? Because you are back in the system where this all started.
Yeah.
And your body remembers.
Well, Murray Bowen Family Systems Theory, one of my favorites. That's what I did my graduate school thesis on.
I remember that.
Talks about it in terms of gravity. It just pulls you back in, right?
Gravity. It's always fucking us over.
It just fucking us over. So that gravity pulls you right back into the family system, whether you wanted to or not. And it's not, when we talk about in terms of gravity, it's not about good or bad. It's just nature. Right? Like, I think we sometimes think of this as like a personal failing of like, oh, I haven't grown. Like, it's just how nature works, man. That shit's magnetic. It's just gravity pulls you down. A family system pulls you in. We have to stop putting moral value on some of this stuff.
A big piece of this too is recognizing what does that gravity do to me? What happens to me when I'm pulled back into the family system? The more you are able to recognize what happens to you when you're around said parent so much, the more you can prepare yourself for going back into that system, to develop scripts beforehand that can help take care of you in that moment so that you don't regress. Go ahead.
Well, and boundaries don't always look like a confrontation.
Right.
Sometimes they look like a behavior change, right? So if your mom makes a comment to you about, well, have you considered going out with Johnny from my Mahjong group? My mom's really in Mahjong right now. And you say, Mom, stop. I'm asking you to please not set me up with someone. I've mentioned it before, right? And like, a lot of generations, they're like, I don't give a shit. Right. But you have the option also to just say, thanks, I'll think about that.
Right. Like, thanks so much. Listen, or like,
thanks.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for thinking of me. I see that you really want me to be in a relationship. I'll think about that. And then walk away.
What I love about that is that it doesn't have to be a back and forth.
No.
And I think it does pull us back into almost like an adolescent phase to engage in that back and forth.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when were you last in like a back and forth like that? You're like, you feel like you're being pulled back into it.
Yeah.
And so if you walk into those situations with scripts or things, you could say, listen, I don't have to engage with this. I could just set up a boundary.
Yeah.
It's going to help you feel so much more centered in your adult self to be able to hold on to yourself. And you have so much more power in that moment to be able to say, listen, just because I'm with my parent doesn't mean I have to regress. Here are the things that I'm going to do to make sure that I don't when I'm with them.
Yeah. How to develop techniques to actively stop yourself from repeating patterns.
So I think the first thing, we just stare at each other blankly. No clue.
I was like, I thought you were going to talk. I didn't want to interrupt you. Then I was quiet for a minute. And then.
Well, you know what? It's like muscle memory.
Yeah.
Where our bodies remember. They remember what we do. It happens so quickly. So even just being able to create a pause between what's happening in the moment and your reaction to it, to be able to assess, well, what do I want to do right now, right? Like, my body remembers that typically I do this. Typically I do the same thing that I've always done. I always yell back at my mom. I always do this. So what kind of pause do you need to be able to say, okay, wait, I want to make a choice about this as opposed to react to it?
Yeah. There's neuroplasticity studies that show that intentional repetition literally rewires the brain. So think about this. Practice doesn't make perfect. It makes possible.
Wow. I love that.
So the first 30 times you say, please don't comment on my body, right? It might be a really activating thing too. You get to 31 and then it might be like, don't care. Like, set my boundaries. You're not going to respect them, whatever. I don't care about this anymore.
I was saying this. I was actually at dinner with some friends last night, and we were having this conversation about like being able to like articulate yourself and how, sometimes being in a situation, like if you're in a meeting, right, and you like have a bunch of people at the meeting, that it's hard to articulate yourself. And I was saying how I feel like it just takes practice. Like the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Mm-hmm. Like that's how it has felt for me, even just being on the podcast, like, and being a therapist too, because you like have to say your thoughts out loud.
Yeah.
Right. You have to. So with anything, practice makes possible.
Yeah. How to know if we're doing it right to break them? How can I tell I'm doing a good job? All of us want a grade. All of us want a promotion. All of us want a raise, right? Like we are looking for some way to figure out how we're doing.
The fact that you're asking means you're doing a good job.
Yes. But sometimes the issue is sometimes we look for it within like our children's behavior, right? So it's like, well, my child's doing good in school or not having behavioral issues. But like, listen, like your kid's another person too. Like they're not just they're not just about you.
Yeah.
So like you could say to yourself like, oh, like my kid has ADHD, so maybe they're struggling more in school. That doesn't mean you're a shitty mom. It means your kid has ADHD.
Right.
Right? Like so like sometimes we also have to differentiate, another Bowen's family systems theory word, differentiate the ability to respond and not react, right? So my child's struggling in school. If I go right to the reaction of I'm a shit mom, that's not going to lead anyone to curiosity and compassion.
Yeah.
As opposed to, wow, my kid's struggling in school. What are some additional things they might need? What are some additional things that we could give to them, right? It's not just about you. What do I need to do? Me. And I'm not saying that in terms of selfish, but we do it. It's shame-based, right?
Yeah.
And I think also then if we make it about us, if I can therapize myself out of this, then I can fix it.
Right.
My kid won't have ADHD anymore. That's not true.
We don't do that. Therapize ourselves out of it. But if you're asking the question, how am I doing?
Yeah.
For you to think about, okay, am I pausing before reacting? That's a really important thing. Am I being able to say no and set boundaries and not feel as guilty about it or not pull back on my boundary? Are you repairing faster when you do slip? Are you recognizing, okay, I did this thing that's very similar to what my parent does, and I don't want to be like that, and I acknowledge that, and so I'm going to repair. I'm going to work through that, and I'm going to do something different. Those are some things you can look at.
How to learn new normals when you've only seen your parents' marriage and grown up in your family. So let's say you grew up in a family, there was like a significant amount of dysfunction, there's a lot of fighting, and you're like, how the hell am I supposed to do this? I don't have any models. Listen, normal isn't inherited, it's created, right? Quote unquote normal. Instead of calling it normal, let's call it functioning, healthy functioning. If I want a healthy functioning relationship and I didn't have it modeled for me, that does not mean that I'm doomed. But it might mean that I put a little bit more effort, intentional effort into things. And the Gottmans wrote about this.
Yes, they did. So the Gottmans talk about having a positive 5-to-1 ratio, 5 positive interactions to 1 negative interaction.
It is Julie and John. We should probably say who the Gottmans are.
Oh, the Gottmans.
Julie
and John Gottman.
Yes, there you go. Who have the Gottman Research Institute about marriage.
These are just like general things that will lead to a healthier marriage. So the 5-to-1 ratio is really important. Turning towards each other for bids for connection. So for example, my partner turns toward me. They want to tell me about their day. I could just stay on my phone, ignore them, and just be like, yeah. Or I turn towards them, I listen to it. My partner was making a bid for connection, and I am accepting that bid for connection. And another thing is practicing repair after conflict, that it's not just about how you fight, it's also about how you repair from the rupture. So being very intentional about repair after you're fighting, those are some of the makings of a healthier relationship. But another thing to think about is to seek out expanders, people who have a healthy relationship. Really look at their relationship, understand it. If dysfunction was the only thing that was modeled for you in relationships, seek out relationships that are healthy or you see as healthy. Really understand what it looks like. What is it about those relationships that seem healthy to you? I think the idea that dysfunction isn't inherited, it's created, is so empowering, because I think so often when we grow up in a dysfunctional family, we can feel like, oh, we're doomed. We're doomed to be in a dysfunctional relationship. You're not doomed. You get to create a functional relationship. You just have to do the work to be able to create a functional relationship, a healthy relationship.
How do I give myself compassion when I do an action that I never wanted to do? Slip-ups are data, not destiny. Let's say that again. Slip-ups are data, not destiny. So let's say I never wanted to yell at my kids, but I've been yelling recently. What's the data? What's been activating it? How is my mental health? How is their mental health? How is our stress levels? Stress. We do not talk about stress enough and how much it impacts families and marriages. And so, hey, I'm really stressed. I'm realizing I'm not learning to walk away. So let's look at it with compassionate curiosity of the data. Don't make it a moral value thing. Good, bad. Hey, I'm doing this behavior. I don't want to do it. Let's look at some research.
I think so often people will be like, oh, I'm such a bad parent, or I'm such a shitty, as opposed to, okay, this was a slip up. Right?
I said to you, I'm having a hard time. And I said to Jen, oh, God, I said, I've been yelling a lot. And she said, in parenting, you really just need consistency. And I said, cool. So I should just yell on the same day every week. And she said, yes, every Tuesday.
Exactly.
You're going to yell at us, do it at the same time.
Also, the amount of fake parenting advice I've been giving you, unbelievable.
I'm eating it up.
I said parenting by Jen, the non-parent.
But also, you know what you did for me?
What?
Is you took every meltdown Millie has had over the past week and you put it into ChatGPT and you had to create a chart for me.
That I did.
And scripts for each interaction.
Was it helpful?
It was so fucking helpful. Get yourself a friend like that, man. That's what people don't realize.
ChatGPT or me?
If you were a parent, you would have given me a bunch of fucking advice and you would have talked about your own kids. You want to know what you did for me? You created me full data.
Functional. See,
that's why having a child-free friend, it does not mean that you have nothing to talk about.
Helpful, because you know what, if I had a kid, I might be like, oh yeah, when
yes, it's exactly
little
what you
Cindy did blah blah blah. Here's what little Cindy, because obviously
like if you had a child, I feel like probably the name wouldn't be Cindy.
Definitely not.
No. Okay. Listen, breaking cycles isn't about perfection.
Right.
Progress, attunement, data, compassion.
Beautifully said. Let's do Dear Em and Jen.
Let's do it.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Dear Em and Jen, just listened to your podcast on family dynamics and loved it start to finish. Thank you so much for touching on this topic and providing transparency around change within your own family, a place where I've always felt safe and most myself. I am the oldest daughter of 4 and have 3 younger brothers. Being the only girl and the oldest has always been such a big part of who I am as a person and in my own relationships and friendships. Over the last 2 years, 2 of my brothers have had pretty serious outgoing girlfriends that spend a lot of time with my family. I've noticed things that I once connected with my family members on, and the role in my family feels like it's lessening. For example, I've always been the one to introduce my mom to new things, coffee, new beauty supplies, help to decorate for my family holidays, and now one of my brother's girlfriends does all of these things with my mom. My older brother now talks to the girlfriends about his girl problems, and my dad talks to the girlfriends about business and sports, which previously my dad and I did. Not sure if there's a solution outside of addressing with my parents and making peace with this internally, but would appreciate any and all advice.
I love this person.
Me too. Like just the awareness around the fact that this was like part of her identity and is part of her identity.
Well, you want to talk about disenfranchised grief, man. This is it. This is something you are not allowed to talk about, but it's sad and it's grief, right? Like I'm losing my role a little bit in my family. Yeah. My role is adjusting. And she's making such a good point, which is like part of this is just the internal processing of this.
Yes.
Of like, wow, my family dynamic has shifted as we got older and new members have joined. And it is not that you're being replaced, but it is that your role was altered. And it's really hard when you're the one whose role was altered. I was talking about this in terms of my daughter, who just became an older sister. I'm still mom, and my husband's still dad, and little Birdie's baby. The only person whose role shifted was my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
That sucks for her.
And it was completely out of her control. Similarly to this person who's writing in, this shift was completely out of your control. It's not like you were like, I'm deciding to have a child, right? And I know I'm making a choice that my role is going to shift. You had no control over your role shifting. And I also don't think that this shift is something that people really talk about.
Yeah.
So it's not like you were like, oh, my brother's got girlfriends. Like now there's going to be a shift. Like you had to experience it and then process it. And sometimes those are the hardest shifts to deal with when you don't anticipate them.
Yeah.
They smack you like over the head.
And so you just, right? So you say to your mom, hey, I want to come up with something just you and I do together. Let's start taking a pottery class on Thursdays, right? Like you can also say to your, hey, Dad, let's go. I had the most random thing to say, which is I was going to say to go to archery.
Let me just say something. I'm so good at archery.
What the fuck?
I went to camp.
Went to camp. Yeah, I was pretty good at archery too, I guess.
Not random at all.
We should be like Katniss Everdeen. Let's start. Okay, that's for a different conversation. But you can say to your parents, hey, I've been feeling this way. It's not, it's not anyone's fault, but it made me realize I'd really like something that's special with just you and I. Could we develop that together? And you don't need to tell everyone else about it, right? You don't need to be talking about your pottery class on Thursdays because then someone might be like, can I come to this pottery class? You just, have somebody that's private.
I also wonder if there's opportunity to develop individual relationships with your brother's girlfriends. I think that's another thing is quick to bring in like another person into the family where they're like, okay, I'm going to, it's important to them to develop relationships with the parents. And so because this dynamic has changed, sometimes it can feel like, oh, I'm fighting for, my parents' affection or my parents' time, where this is also an opportunity for you to develop relationships with new people if you really like your brother's girlfriends. Like you can do cool stuff with them too. So I think so often we can think of, oh, I'm getting, pushed out, or like and a reframe of that can be, oh, my world is also expanding and I can also let other people into my world. And like, what does that look like? And maybe you haven't gotten there yet, and that's okay. And that might take some time to be able to adjust. But your world can also expand to, spend some time with them, get a new friend or sister-in-law.